Welcome. I am Crime Queen, and if you are joining us for the first time, it's the channel where we have fun with words and numbers, numerology to be precise. Okay, so this is different to my other camera that I had before, so my eye gaze perhaps is not really as focused as it was on my previous presentations. That's the earlier ones, of course. Of course, the quality of the picture on this is much nicer, but it looks like I'm staring in space somehow. But um, let's not let that turn us our attention away from the essence of what is being conveyed in these presentations, which I feel is very vital for most of us, because the subject matter really affects most of us directly or indirectly. And that is why I am feeling a sense of obligation to pursue this subject of black-white equation of entrapment. Now, it all derived from this simple, I call it simple in the sense of how it had derived this template. So it's this simple template of sacrifice. Now, in our culture, in the Western world in particular, and I think it exists overall, that everyone knows what it is like to sacrifice and sacrifice in one way or another. But this is really based on the sacrifice of Jesus Christ. Of course, that is the subject that has shaped our culture, our religion, our beliefs, traditions, and practices, and of course, based on the Holy Bible. So, all the references that I make on spiritual or scriptural references, the Bible is on the King James Version. I have chosen that version because I feel that is the version that really shaped the bedrock or foundation or and structures and constructs of our world today, particularly in the Western world. Now, that is what, of course, I am concerned with. It's not to say I'm not concerned with other worlds, but I think, of course, as it is said, you need to do your house cleaning before you can try cleaning somebody else's. And that's what it's about. So, if you're new to this channel, this is a depiction of Mother Eve. Okay, I'm going to try and change the lighting. So let's see. So it's not too striking on the board. Okay. Yeah, well, we'll see how it goes. So basically, this is Mother Eve, and Mother Eve, of course, is the mother of all living. We hear that reference in the Bible. We heard a reference in the Bible when Adam named his wife Eve, because she was the mother of all living. Now, it makes me wonder about was, and although I think I have got a good idea of the word was, because the word was equals 7. Now, 7 is really, we hear it's throughout the scriptures again, and the word was, and it still is. So in the beginning was the word, and the word was, and the word is. So basically, we could say that was still has the representation of what is. So was really carries the aspect of what is. It still has that connection. It has that well, I think that the representation is really a better way of putting it. And so that would mean that Eve, as I have discovered, Eve is the mother of all living in Genesis of chapter 1 verse 2. So we are talking about the waters there. Hence why on our template as well, we have water right here. Let's have water. Let's see if we can get the water to, yes, to show its face. and reflect. So we use the water, and I like to remember to say while I'm doing these presentations to call water forth, call revelation into being, so we can see and draw light on particularly a subject that is that we are embarking on right now. So I have done some presentations. So just to kind of wrap up or have a degree of insight on what we have spoken about. So basically, I had came across this equation or correlation of doing colors, the numbers. So yellow equals 11, black equals 11, and white equals 11. So I came across this when I was doing numerical values for colors. And of course, this is where I also found out that the color blue and green have the same numerical value, and actually green is 31 and blue is 13. Now blue actually is the direct correlation with revelation, and so we can imagine it's like to say the blue is really like light, and we are able to see through because it represents the throat chakra. So it represents words, and words are what is spoken, and of course we can see that they are the reflection of thoughts, and of course words that are uttered and things come into being. So revelation is being reflected very much so in through the waters, which of course the blue sky is representation of the waters. Okay. And if I may also add, it's that it also gives a direct correlation as well with water. In this sense, we are talking water as in 22, I think it is, but not waters as in 23. But Mother Eve, as in the text of Genesis chapter 1, verse 2, it speaks of waters. Now, of course, we have the verse 2, which is also in correlation as waters, is in direct correlation with the 5 oceans. We could say the 5 senses, your 5 fingers, your 5 toes to each foot, your 5 points. We are the 5-pointed star. So we have seen through all these, apart from all the other 5s that we can think of, that we are really Mother Eve. When we have done the numerical value for Eve is directly 5, and for Christ is also 5, and for Shakti is 5, Shiva is 5. We have another list of the key is 5, open is 5, lock is 5. So this in fact is saying to us that there are numerous practices or structures or constructs that are very much aware of the power of 5, but we have not probably delved into the proliferation or of the number 5 as we are doing now. We have heard of the 5-pointed star. We have heard of our 5 senses. We know even with our hands and our toes, we don't seem to even pay much attention to the messages that they are really conveying. Hence why I started doing some presentations on the physical anatomy. So just to brief you on this, so I saw there was this striking message that on the two ends of black was twos. We can see that that is double, and we are not talking about the yellow for now, because yellow, we are using yellow in a sense that it is like shedding light on what we are doing. It's like there are 2 factors and one is a witness, although there should be 2 witnesses, but okay. And we also have On white, we have the fives at either ends. Now, what it has been, of course, as we say, we have noticed that 5 is really Mother Eve. Now, there we are with the sacrifice template. Mother Eve is in the middle, which is where you have to go through that channel to get to your pineal gland, to activate the pineal gland. That is the place, as far as we are concerned, it's the place of prosperity. It's the place of wisdom. Of course, this is what the Bible have continually asks us to do. Seek wisdom. And when you find it, hide it, or stick it around your neck. Excuse me. And yes, there's something about as though it were a chain. So this is the thing that wisdom is meant to be, a representation of your vocal power, you could say. Because when it says something about the neck, which is in direct correlation with your throat chakra, it is also saying about what you eat, what you speak out, and so on. So we see the representation of that is very acute in our presentation of the template. So the template with Mother Eve, because we will go over that in a minute. We see that the number 5, as I say, it's the number of prosperity. It is the number of Christ. It is Christ who is meant to save us. So, who has come for the sinners. So when we see that we are looking at these two colors and not seeing a 5 reflecting there, it makes us question, well, it made me question, what is going on? Now, of course, I have looked at this on the template. While I have 23 on the board, that really coincides with Mother Eve in some way, in all different, like Shakti or Shiva, or these are gods, and these are meant to be, or like open or lock, or all these other pineal gland. When we even add those together, comes to 23. So these are very profound. So it's not taking away the power of what lies in that section at all, but we go by symbols. That's the thing that I am concerned about. The numbers are symbols and they direct us accordingly. So when we have these two 5s here, which 5 of course in itself carries both the masculine and feminine attributes in its shape, because the top part is that masculine shape, we could say, and the bottom part, which is the snake-like, is really the feminine, because that's what we have associated the softer side with the gentle woman and the tougher side with the tough man. So basically, we have seen that there is a representation of balance looking on both ends here, and with the middle word in the middle of it has the word hit. On the other hand, we have in the middle of the word black, we have lack, L-A-C. L-A-C, of course, because we are going by the spirit of sound mind. Again, scripturally in Timothy, of second chapter of Timothy, and I believe I've got it right, that it is chapter 2 and verse 7 thereabout, where God says, I have not given you the spirit of fear, but the spirit of sound mind. So we are saying that when we hear, like I say, black, we are wondering, well, what, there's the lack. And that is what we hear, is what registers in our subconscious mind. And so is it by chance that majority of black has been in situations where they are feeling lack of the strength, or lack of whatever it is that they have bought into. Now, we know that being lack and feeling lack is two different things. So from this word here and the numbers, I don't think it really means that black is lack at all. I really believe it's that the words and sounds have been conveyed in messages that have impregnated the minds of individuals, groups, and nations to believing or to buying into a sense of lack. Now, what can we do about this? That is what I'm concerned about. So, of course, I feel now that there is an opportunity to raise a degree of consciousness to understand the power of three, for instance, which is really the number of life, we could say, although life is five. But why I say life, it's that three is that vibration. In fact, vibration, the word vibration is actually two. And if we say vibrations, we are talking about three. Now, of course, three is that a synonymous with the S in a way, although it looks like it's just going, into one direction. It looks like that. But again, it's another thing to have people understand that the three, because there is the vibration on either side, it does not have to stay in one position. It can move and form a beautiful 8-petal flower, which is what is here. So it is a three, number three, it is M, it is W, and it is also E. But sadly, that is exactly what has been used, like for McDonald's, for instance, for the M&Ms, the sweets, the mommy, the whole thing where it comes to food. So it has been used to sell the process itself in a lesser value, and have been selling it back to the very same source where it derived from. So that is really a sad story. It's in my opinion right now. There we are in the depth of abundance, because three actually equals freedom. But it is the same symbol of that freedom now has been used as a handcuff, and that was my very first realization of what man or people have done to obscure other people's opinions or beliefs of who they really are. So people are lost in who they really are. One moment, free is freedom, which is meant to be freedom, and then it is used to handcuff, because it is used to handcuff. It is used as a lock, because it is that like the padlock. So you can imagine the handcuff as well has, I believe it has two links, and of course can be, of course you can imagine it's a circle. I think now it's done some way that perhaps it's because there are two links, but that's the thing. This circle is meant to be whole. It's meant to be free. It's meant to be that whole, as I say. But of course, because we live in a world of polarities and movement, when something is whole like this, we haven't got the ability to see the whole. We are always presented the half of whatever it is, and to try and endeavor to find the other half. So we are given one M like this. We are not aware that we can form a beautiful flower with that which we have. So that has been my concern here. Now the number two, of course, is very powerful. It is really the most powerful, and hence again, this is why it is also used to create this this three, the food. It's the food chains, and it is the food that has been intoxicating, or more that has been toxic. to the minds and the health of people, that they are not able to think clearly to make right judgments. Now 3, as we say, it's the L and it's the C. C is also a representation of you upside the U. It is a U. We could say it also forms a U, like so C is hair, but again we have the power because it's from the perspective or position of our standpoint that we are looking at any object. This is the thing, we have the ability, we have been given, as in the scriptures with Mother Eve. She says, behold, I have given you everything, every fruit, every seed-bearing fruit after its kind, and to have dominion, to replenish, to subdue, to multiply, and so on. So there, all those things had been given freely to us, but there had been other gods, we could say, from the scriptures as well. And they are gods in their own right, from how they have manipulated even the very essence of the scriptures too. So we can see, as I will show you just in the template, so the power of 2, because the power of 2 is really a representation of the 2 breasts. It's the mother who has 2 breasts. She is able to actually feed her child. There we have another, I have done presentations. We could say is the Passover. The child can have from one breast, and of course the mother has the resource of the other breast to really feed the child till it falls asleep. Now that's the thing that happens when one is fed from the breast and they are so contented, they go to sleep. And when you are asleep, anyone can do anything they wish to do with you. That is what has been happening, and that in itself is the sad cry. It is the sad cry, and it's almost, as I'm just using the word sad, and here we have SA, and this is almost like a D. It's just missing a stroke to make it too visible that that is what happens there. And in actual fact, that is what happens there, because this is one cycle right here. 1, 2, 3. This is where it is said, buckle my shoes. So buckle your shoe, meaning that you have to bend down to do your shoes so you don't see what is happening. I don't know, sometimes those things just happen. I think Mother Eve, as I say, just work through me, because this is really a subject we need to understand. So with the word black, actually, I had in a past presentation as well done indicated how the two colors display their attributes on this template. And what I found was that black only maneuvered in this part here, where no wonder that they are just stuck with the reverend to keep them a sheep, because the sheep, of course, is just milking, eating, and that's all there is to it. It probably won't even kick a fuss like if it were a bull to really charge over you, but that's another story. And so we have, in fact, the word bull is right here as well. So it's no, so that gives me BULL. So of course it would have 2 L's, because as I say, if the L is representation of life, L is actually 3. So if we have these 2 3s here, this is where the bull comes into play. Okay, now going back to this that I am talking about, that the black is in the sack, just eating, drinking, sleeping, and of course working, perhaps working very hard, because in this part here, in number 2, They probably would not work very hard if they didn't have the white on this side, who after when we do W, hope you can see this, W, H, I, and the T comes here. The word, the letter T in itself, even in our British culture, we see how we drown ourselves in tea. Of course, I'm passionate about tea myself. But when we go for tea hair, that means to be able to drown yourself in tea, or be able to nail someone to the T, because we use that in all our languages. Oh, we've got it to a T. Who is in the tea? Who's been drank in that cup of tea? And there we have the B, for instance, because this is BKT. You may not be able to see it, but I have done many presentations showing how the B is also number 13. So B actually here, which is the number 13, you can see. I'm going to wipe this off just to show you what really happens in this place. Okay. So here we have, we call this the jazz. This is the jazz when people are just messing around. This is the first stage. In fact, I would say, because we have found out that the S, which is the serpent or the snake, is Mother Eve in the Bible. So Mother Eve, this is where she says, I have given you everything. So you're having a ball right there. And that everything comes to, it falls in 1 and plus 9, because the hour represents 9, which means that you've got 10, you've got everything. And that was stated several times in Genesis of chapter 1 through Mother Eve. Mother Eve is the said God. She's the God of language. She's the one who speaks. So we have BKT here. BK. Oh, let's do this again because I've taken up more space. B K. So BKT, which is what I call the bucket. And of course, it's a representation of the Last Supper with Christ and the disciples. Now, I have been showing, for instance, the B is really 13. Let's do this on Mother Eve's face. She really doesn't mind now. And it is 13, so that would be 12 disciples and Christ at the table. There would be, when Christ has broken of the bread, bread is also 3, meaning that is what sustains to give life, to carry on, give you energy, because that's what 3 does. It's very energetic. It's very creative. It wants to move. So that it would be Christ with the disciples. Of course, we see that when you are in agreement with someone or something, you become their equal. At that stage where Christ was having this Last Supper with his disciples, trying not to get my pen to dry out, with disciples, he is saying, when you eat of this bread, remember, this is my flesh, and when you drink of this blood, of this wine, this is my blood. As long as you do this, do it in remembrance. Do it in remembrance of me. Now, it is very important here. It actually equals 11, IT, meaning 9 plus 2. This is where, again, another 9, 11 comes. So, IT, and people want to know about 9, 11. It's right here. 9, but it's really 2 here. But when you add this, because it would be like 9, 11, the number 11, when you add 9 plus 2, it's 11. And then the word 11 actually comes to 9. So that in itself is very powerful. The word eat here has much more to to it than we think. It also would coincide with the word eat, because we are it's all around food or what one digests. So there we are talking about the 13. Now we know about Judas, of course, with the kiss of betrayal, which we could put it as the kiss here, of course, and Christ was nailed to the cross. We could say that the cross is really the tree, a representation of the tree. Of course, it wasn't a steel. We are talking about wooden cross, so of course we could call it. It is still the tree, and with that as well, we see that it is also in the shape of a nail. We could say it is in the shape of the nail, because that's what we say. When we say we nail something, we do use that term, that it is the T. So that means that it is it. Yeah. So that we use that. So you think you're it, that is it. We nail it to the T, and we go on with those things. And yet still as well, we drink tea. So that is the people who are in labor, whether it is however we want to say it, because in the culture, the British culture, we do love our tea. The tea is everything. And so you can see how this everything really comes into this bracket here in this column. And that is the column that is very powerful, because that's where Christ formed the agreement with his disciples. But the agreement, of course, with the 13, you could imagine shaking hands. As I say, they become equal. So equal signs is what joins the 3 and the 1 together, and it forms the B. The B is really another representation for the bread, for the blood, for bond, for breast, for buttocks, for McDonald's, for Kentucky Fried Chicken, because it goes in the mouth. Anything to do with mouth, anything to do with the 2 hemispheres, the brain hemispheres, because that has a slight curve to it. Likewise, anything that we have associated with the M, which is really closely associated with mother. This is how this has gone into the deep psyche of our makeup, the M. So we see when we are actually comparing black and white in this sense, we have in the white clearly here too, where the W has its freedom in its structure to maneuver. Here, of course, the number 2, where the white is, and I have showed that they only have that T on the right side, which would come into the black equation, into the black column, to form agreement on things that they do not understand and think that they're equal at that time, make believe they're equal, and form a bond. The bond, of course, might have to be, well, they may well understand, but given very little choice to say otherwise, because when this L is absent, for instance, which is this L here, when it's absent, this is the back, it's called BACK. Now, of course, we learn that if someone says, which reminds me that Arnold Schwarzenegger, the most famous line, "I'll be back." But I'm going to have to watch this movie again, because perhaps it's going to offer some kind of solution. So he says, "I'll be back." Of course, in the term "I'll be," he uses the word L. There are 2 L's in that wow. So he says this. He says "I'll," ALL. So he comes back with the 2, because these are 3. Both of these equal 3. The L's are 3. So he comes back with, oh, Hollywood is so clever in what they do, of course. Okay, so he comes back with the double free, plus he comes back with the I. Now that I, which is very important, it comes from here with the I here, with the white. And of course, a white man. So he has the double three vibration, plus he has that I, which is here. Of course, he is equipped to form all kinds of destruction like he did in the movie, which I don't remember which one it is, but I remember the line, I'll be back. Now that in itself, thank you, Mother Eve, and thank you, Spirit, for getting me to remember this, because that is the solution that we are seeking. We are seeking how we can use this solution here. Of course, with the A, we know the A as 1 with the numerical value of 1 is very powerful. It is very powerful. And I have shown, because the A has 3 strokes in it, but it has this rigid form like it has here, or it's like a house or hut, that we need to educate ourselves. Now, when I speak of black, white, for my listeners, please, I am talking about functions more than anything else, because this now, whoever has been hitting has a hard time to get in the balance of knowing you can't keep hitting forever. You'll get tired. You'll get abused. You'll be you'll have this self-sabotage element as well. So basically, we are looking at ways that we can have this marriage that serves both black and white. I had never imagined that I would be on a subject like this, but when I encountered this, oh God, yes, the tears came to my eyes, because it was a subject that I had not really paid much attention to. When people are protesting in London and all, and I'm getting messages about black, white, and so on, I'm too busy to engage in those things. But now it's like it's hit me in the face, and Spirit is now expecting me to do something about it, expecting me to talk about it, because more so is that it is not just a color thing anymore. It is a feeling thing. Now, why I'm going to say this as well, because the tables of it has gone around so sophisticatedly that the people doing the hitting now, everyone's doing the hitting on the electronic devices, knocking their faces out, knocking our own faces out. We are damaging ourselves by the constant knocking and tapping and clicking. And of course, do click on Crimey Queen by all means, because I think this is a message that is worthy of your clicks. But however, we need to be mindful of where the energy that we are sending through here. Why is it that we can't really get our devices to work if you have a glove on? If you have a glove on, I don't know if it happens with other people, but you can't really get your clicks or your likes to go through. Why is it that it can happen that way? What message is that saying to us? Our energy is seeping directly. There is a device or something that when we do that, it captures everything, or all part of whatever it is within us, that it just saps. And we are not realizing in whatever quarters or area that click and tap is going. And now we have Sophia, the robot, to in fact, she's not even bothered so much about the connecting to going into the sack where the number 2, She's beyond that. So where it is like WHITE, we have E here, E. So basically, this is where we have been taught to when you are in Christ, you are a new creature. This is where Mother Eve is teaching us how to open our third eye, how to protect ourselves from those hits that we are talking about. Now, to show us that Mother Eve is so wanting to help us on either sides, both black and white, it has 5 letters. They both contain 5 letters and they both equal number 11. Now, what do we get from this? When we add 5 plus 6, it equals 11. So Mother Eve is very fair in that, showing whether you are white or black, is that showing us how to get there. But the game still continues. So now we have, in case people are catching on, which is what is happening, well, now we have Sophia, who has a numerical value. Of course, she has the 1, and the 1 is to mimic Mother Eve, the serpent. She wants to mimic Mother Eve, the serpent, right here. And with the A, of course, the A, as we see on the scale, also equals the 2. So there we are. And now I see why she's not too bothered about looking or being present in the, like the 2 here. But this 2, this A, for instance, has the numerical value of 1. So basically, when we have 1 on either ends of Sophia, that means we are still dealing with 2. And I just work it out like this as well. So here we have the S and A. They both equal 1, which makes it 11. So we can imagine, I've got to be mindful of the time on here. Okay. You can imagine that Sophia was written in a circle, and these 2 circles here would join right here because they have that thing in common. They would bond right there, the 2 ones, and 1, of course, is really the most powerful because that's where Mother Eve gave us everything. Everything we could ever want was right there in number 1. Number 1 is really number 10. And this is where everything was given to us. So we see how now Sophia actually has her second round in the fox section, where it is on the template FOX. That O, of course, is like unbreakable, the O. So that is another thing that we have to be mindful of. That 6 is like really tight, we should say. The P as well. Now I have got come across something because Mother Eve has got everything in place. She is the one. She has everything in place, but she's calling us home to access the information she has available to us. That is why I am doing these presentations, because Mother Eve wants us to open our eyes. Now here we see on the white we have this 5-5 here and the 2 5s at the end, which, as I say, is representation of the masculine and feminine. But how is it used? Look at what is on the 2 ends here. We see WE, which is like saying we hit. Now the people who are writing this, like, we have to write black as well, which has lack in it and back in it. And of course, we know how many people have suffered. Well, we don't know how many. We heard that it's a huge amount of people who have suffered through being hit on their backs. This is what we are talking about. The hit on the back, because the L has been taken away. So, of course, when you learn blah, blah, blah shape, which you have hair, blah, B-L-A, and this is what people are singing. That's what I learned in school. Blah, 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 sheep. Have you any wool? Or the other one that I said, or 1, 2, 3, and you're tying your shoelaces. That means your head is low. And of course, the word low actually equals 23. And the word high, the word low actually equals 14, which is 5. So 14, this is what I'm saying. I have discovered the 14 gods in Genesis of chapter 1 and 2. So basically, there is a lot of, this is foundational. But just like we don't go back to learning A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, we do not pay attention to the structure of the foundation. We are so busy building or not building that we do not pay attention to. If I was to ask someone quickly, well, how many strokes in the letter F, they probably would have to think. And which is what I am readdressing myself. It had taken me so long as an adult to realize, hey, I've got 7 circles to my head, because that is not what was being taught. It was all those rhymes about how many cows were on the farm and how many pigs were on the farm, but not how many eggs or whatever it is, and to add this up and to get a sense of who I am. I have to wait when I'm an adult and going to uni or university to really learn about the heart and the lungs and God knows. So this is why I am very concerned about how we address this. We can also see that there is another distortion, we could say, or a longer path, because we see here, this is really something. Here we see we get a direct number for 11, which is saying you're not going any further than 2. It's more or less saying that you're not going any further. And here with the white, it is saying, okay, we've got to take you to the 9.